So we can go to the next slide. Well, we may be frozen here for a bit, so let me, here we go. About 5 years ago, PMG board initiated development of our first ever strategic plan. We are a large group, a very vibrant and active group, but up to that point, we sort of took things as they came, and ideas that popped up, and kept on doing what we were doing. And we thought it would be a good time for us to just take a step back, look at our organization and look at the community and the community needs, as well of course, as the guidance we get from VCE, and think about the longer term. We came up with several strategic goals that we've summarized here, focusing, of course, on sustainability, including planting, working with native species. The second one is one that's been a real challenge for us. We realized that our client base of the people that mostly we worked with were white middle-class homeowners in the city and county. Largely the same group of people that we drew from for our Master Gardener volunteers. And we realized that we weren't necessarily reaching out and connecting with some underrepresented populations, including people of color. And we decided that we wanted that our efforts to more broadly represent the people in our community across the board. And finally, one of our goals was partnering with other community organizations. Charlottesville area, like probably many areas that you may come from, is chock-a-block with all sorts of active, non-profit, volunteer organizations. Sometimes we've been accused of tripping over each other in our community. But what we wanted to do was to partner with those organizations so that our efforts could be more productive and that we could have greater results. This is a list here of some of the organizations we're currently partnering with. One is the International Rescue Committee that works with refugees that are joined our community. The Joint Council on Aging has day programs for seniors, and we've instituted a horticulture program for them. We've expanded garden education at the elementary school level. We also have community garden partnerships, and last but not least, the subject of our presentation today, Habitat for Humanity. So why did we connect with Habitat for Humanity, and what led us to reach out to them? The local Habitat for Humanity program is really highly regarded in our community. It's very, very active in the effort to meet affordable housing needs, which, like many other communities, is really a critical need in Charlottesville and the surrounding area. We had had some exposure to Habitat for Humanity before, and we knew that they do a wonderful job with home construction and working with families to get them ready to become homeowners. But the landscaping effort and thus the curb appeal of the home sometimes was not a very strong point. So we reached out and offered to help them, and particularly with our interest for more sustainable landscapes, and with our effort to educate the homeowners about maintaining their landscaping. Ralph Marini and Abigail Turner were the original uh, coordinators of this project. And so we began a series of many meetings and email communications to begin to craft a program of collaboration with the local habitat staff. So our initial partnership focus looked like this. And you see here in the picture a duplex that was one of the earlier homes that we worked on. From the beginning, let me say there was much goodwill and friendly relations with the Habitat staff. And we've had a wonderful opportunity to get to know those people and to work together with them. But in any project, we have different points of view and different priorities. So it's a process of working over time to meld those visions together and decide exactly what we're going to do together. But in this case, we decided that we would focus on the landscaping in front of the new homes, many of which are townhouses. Although in addition to the front, we also worked on landscaping exposed sides of the homes. Our goal was to involve the homeowners in helping to design their properties and select the plants. And we'll talk about more about how some of these things worked out and what we found out. Our emphasis from the PMG point of view is we wanted to work with the homeowner families and have a chance to educate them about the plantings and to take care of them. One of the pieces of this is that we work together with a local garden center that's a cooperative business. And they helped us out by beginning to stock more native species and provided a volume discount on price. PMG has been very lucky to have had a lot of successful fundraising, largely through our plant sales. And we decided that we would contribute $250 towards the cost of landscaping each home, which partially covers the cost. Dealing with privacy considerations, Habitat served as the point of contact with the families rather than PMG. But PMG led the planting day activities with the families. And let me turn to Ralph now.
We actually did any landscaping, and it was predominantly in the Charlottesville and Albemarle County area. We landscaped 4 homes, 2 of them. The other ones were the duplex that was on the prior slide that Roseanne spoke about.
Ralph, you're breaking up a little bit.
And planting. The 4th one was a single parent who had to work on Saturday, so she did send one of her children over, but mostly a single parent. We didn't make the depth of relationship building with the families that we had hoped for, but it kind of worked out. In the end, what we did was we created a file for each family that included information about the specific plants, the planting, digging, planting, and care that we recommended for them to do so that they could maintain the quality of their and the appearance of their landscape over time. So that was kind of a change that we had made on the run. We learned some lessons the first year. Um, I wanted to go back and mention that this is a family that was in one of the renovated houses. It was in Esmont, about 20 miles south of Charlottesville. Um, and that's the mother and father. They have 4 kids, and they all moved in there. They worked with us on the planning. They were thrilled with it. And I still see the husband. He works at the local Trader Joe's, and we remember each other. So that's been kind of nice. Some of the lessons that we learned the first year included, the difficulty of maintaining good communication with the families despite everybody's best efforts. Um, we struggled at first because the soil around the homes was really tough to deal with between the natural clay of the area and for some reason all the stones that habitat seems to add to the soil as they backfill around the foundations. Um, the digging was really tough going, so we ended up having to, to increase our volunteer base to do that, and a lot of times we had to use digging bars and stuff to make a hole big enough to put the plants in. So that was a quick adjustment. And we found out that Habitat had been kind of neglectful about making sure that there was exterior water availability, and the drainage from the downspouts, the gutter downspouts, was typically just run onto the ground, and there was a lot of erosion. And as you can see in this picture, which is the same house that was on the last slide, the driveway's a bit higher than the house is, and everything was kind of slanting toward the house. So we counter slanted the landscaping that we put in so that it would drain away from the house and into a little valley so that we didn't flood the house with water. Those were all adjustments that we discussed with Habitat and we mutually made going forward. So that was a success in a sense. The second year, 2022, we expanded the work. We landscaped 16 homes that year, combination of single family and townhomes. Um, in the photo that you see on the slide, this is what Habitat calls a triplex. It's 3 adjacent townhomes, or connected townhomes, I should say. They're built into a larger neighborhood that are mostly single family, commercially built and sold homes, larger homes than the Habitat homes. Um, and we really didn't want that, and Habitat doesn't want the homes to look like the place where the poor folks live. So they're putting in a nice, appealing landscape so that it blended in well with the community was important to them, to us, and to the families. And as you can see here, there's family participation with us in the planting that's going on. We were able to incorporate about 90% native, since we were still selecting the plants and choosing the ones that fit the local native preferences. The 10% that were native were largely family choices. If they had a favorite rose bush or something, we didn't want to disappoint them, so we did include that sort of thing. And we got good cooperation from good changes to the normal practices from Habitat to include the exterior spigots and drainage that we were looking for. We also expanded our partnerships a bit. The leadership at Habitat had requested that we add a tree to every lot. And we have a member who is also a member of the local tree stewards group. And he approached them about partnering with us with that in that functional area of, planting a tree per house. And they were excited to join, and they did join with us. You can see here a tree steward working with a couple of the kids from one of the duplexes that we planted. And it was all native trees as well, I should add. This photo just shows one of our master gardeners working with an adjacent mother and daughter and doing the planting in front of their portion of the duplex. 2023 was a significant change, however, where in the prior 2 years we were working around, the stuff scattered around the city and the county. 2023 Habitat really changed their focus to a single development. In 2007, they bought 100+ acres of land south of Charlottesville, which was filled with basically 300 plus trailer park that had become very run down over the recent decades. The trailers were looking really dilapidated. They had sewage issues, all kinds of environmental issues there. And Habitat's commitment was to provide every family in there, all 300 of them, the opportunity to, if they were willing to join the Habitat program, to become homeowners, as long as they took the training, put in this 11 kind of independent neighborhoods or villages, as they call them. And they expect it to take 10 or more years to complete. 2023 was.
Ralph, you're kind of going in and out, so we did miss a little bit of what you said about the training that they were required to complete.
Training on
Maybe I can fill in as we go forward. The training for the families included a lot of things, I think, from financial management and how to care for their homes, uh, basic problems and maintenance. And the families also, as typical in habitat developments, put in sweat equity as part of their contribution uh, toward the cost of their homes.
Looks like Ralph disconnected again here. Let me pull up the presentation.
Okay, it would be going to page 13.
Can you see that?
Yep. Do you want to go to the next slide? This is an overview plan of what the community looked like, or still looks like a little bit with the trailer park development. And the portion that you see down at the bottom that in tiny print says land swap, that's where most of the development has begun already. The new homes are being initially built there so that the people in the trailer park move in as homes are completed, so that they aren't displaced by the construction. And if we move on to the next slide, that shows you the development that's now underway. The blue the blue pieces are habitat homes, and some of the others are market rate development. And we worked on Village 1 last year, and this year, largely in the fall, we're going to be working on landscaping the habitat homes in Village 2. And go on to the next slide. As Ralph mentioned, it was a big sea change for us when we agreed to move and work on the Southwood development. The scale of it is such, and the nature of the development is that a lot of things changed from our initial couple of years working with Habitat. There is a very different process for landscape planning because the development is so substantial. And because it's mixed habitat homes and market rate homes, there was a premium on having a more cohesive landscape look, and also a greater initial emphasis on curb appeal for the market rate buyers. Some of the things that we did initially in the first couple of years were sometimes smaller plants and things that would be growing in over a couple of years, whereas to appeal to the community, to appeal to the market rate buyers, as well as look nice for the habitat families, we needed to have a different kind of look, and a look where things looked planned and cohesive across the whole block. So what Habitat did is hired a contractor, a landscape designer, to plan the landscapes for the homes and the exposed sides of the buildings. One of the things that was very successful in our collaboration with Habitat and with the landscape designer, we had some initial plans and realized that there were very few native plants that were incorporated in that initial plan. But with the agreement of everyone, we drew together some of our most expert people from the PMG group, and came up with a list of proposed substitutes for native plants that could be put in rather than more exotics. So there are also things that weren't necessarily ideal from the native point of view, because with working with a much greater scale, availability became market availability in nurseries became more important. Next slide, please. There were also some big changes in how we worked on installation. One of the things that was kind of a disappointment for all of the PMG volunteers is that we had really enjoyed working with the whole families, with parents and the children before Southwood. However, Southwood is a construction site still, with construction workers working, including on weekends when we are working there. So because of safety reasons and liability reasons, children are not included in the installation day. And we kind of miss working with the kids as well as the parents. We also had a translation issue at times. Most of the current residents of the Southwood Trailer Park are Hispanic, and some of them don't have working English capability. But with the Habitat staff and some of the homeowner families that were working on installation, we worked on translation, and that worked out pretty successfully. And finally, we had a big change in what PMG tried to do as far as supervising and doing some of the labor ourselves. We were working on trying to landscape 6 to 8 homes a day on one Saturday, and that was something that was really hard to do all of the labor that was required to do that from the PMG volunteers, including the fact that Many of our PMG volunteers are, most of us are retired people. And as we've said before, when you're working with construction sites, our good old Central Virginia red clay, together with gravel, rock, and other construction debris are really hard to work with. So we came up with a plan that we would put a premium on our educational ability, and we try to have at least two people, two PMG volunteers per house. One to work with families that are putting in their sweat equity and do as much education as we can, including maintaining afterwards. But we also started working with other volunteers that Habitat planned for and provided. Many of these are students from the University of Virginia, and they have goodwill and strong backs and arms, and they have made a wonderful contribution to our installation days and have been a delight to work with, and have been really interested in learning about the right way to plant a shrub or plant a tree. Let's go to the next slide. So a typical planting day was a Saturday, starting pretty early in the morning, doing 6 to 8 townhomes. And Habitat had received delivery of the plants from the nursery and positioned them according to the landscape designer's plans, and also provided piles of compost and mulch, more or less in the area. Sometimes it was sometimes the way it worked out, we were mostly moving those piles uphill, which gave us a nice challenge in the workout. So PMG briefed and supervised the families and the volunteers in preparing the soil. And we were successful in planning to have a fair amount of compost to improve the rocky and compacted clay soil. They're doing the planting, mulching, watering, and our cleanup afterwards. One of the things that was significant and still is significant is that we are working not with planting necessarily in the ideal time of year to plant, but it's determined by when construction gets to the right point. So watering is particularly important, and Habitat staff continued to water after planting until the families actually moved in. And as Ralph mentioned earlier, we are continuing to keep an eye open to make sure that there are water spigots so that the families can plant can water their plantings. And we also continue to look at the slope of the soil against the foundations and porches of the house. So moving on, this is one of our work crews from one Saturday. We've focused a lot on the work, but it really has been a lot of fun. The families are really excited about their homes. We had one Saturday morning where the homeowner was putting in his sweat equity. Actually, he had finished working off his sweat equity, but he is a landscaper, works for a landscaping company. And he came and was very adamant that he wanted to plant himself all the plantings for his home, and did a wonderful job, of course. So let me turn back to Ralph if he's back on.
He did join for a moment and then it looked like he left again. So I'm not sure.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, let me continue then. I'm sorry that Ralph isn't here to do this part because he was the lead instigator and implementer of this part of the project. Uh, One of the things that we learned when we go to the celebrations when families are moving into their new homes is that Habitat presented them with gifts of things that new homeowners would need that they might not have in stock, like a basic toolkit and cleaning supplies as a sort of a housewarming present. And we realized, of course, that these homeowners that new homeowners that were previously in rental situations didn't have the basic garden tools to maintain their property. So what we did was developed a plan to have our own PMG gift, move-in gift to the families of garden kits. And you see there what's included in a garden kit. There's a bucket that can be useful for a lot of things, including storage, pruners, 2 pairs of gloves, weeders, some trowels, and a watering hose and a watering wand. You can move to the next slide. We did some fundraising to cover the cost of these supplies. PMG has a brand new grant committee that worked on applying for and received grants from Bama Works, which is a foundation associated with the Dave Matthews Band, and also from VCE. And I think Ralph is back.
Yes, I just saw him pop in. Let's see if he connects.
Okay. In the meantime, we were approached Lowe's about ordering materials from them, and they became so enthusiastic about it that they wanted to donate the materials that we needed for the new homeowners in 2023, and nominated this project as their hero project of the year. And our generous grantors agreed to let us keep the funds that they'd given us for this past year and use them for the homes that will be finishing in 2024. So this was a very heartwarming project. You see here all of the supplies loaded onto a truck with a Lowe's employee and Natalie from the Habitat staff that's collecting them. Now, can we move to the next slide?
Ralph, I think Ralph is back. Ralph, did you
Can
have
you guys
anything?
hear me now? I don't know what's going on, but I apologize for the disruption. But so in 2024, going forward, we're moving from Village 1 to Village 2. I missed Roseanne's explanation there, but I'm sure you guys got it. So Village 2 is the second of the 11 villages that are planned for the next 10 or more years. And Habitat is projecting, requesting us to lead the landscaping of 14 to 20 homes during the year. We're still working on trying to make connections with the families of adding a lunch to the morning plantings that we've been doing. And then in the afternoon, having a brief education session to talk about, the experience that we had in the morning, as well as, how to care for the plants and beds and their homes generally going forward, which might be a nice expansion. We're kind of testing the family interest in that at the moment. We decided to increase our donation from $250 to $300 a house this year. We have the funds, we have the enthusiasm for the project, and there's been inflation, so we know that Habitat's costs have gone up. They've obviously been very receptive to that, and because the first homes we're likely to see to landscape are not going to be finished until late summer or fall. We're talking about having one or more days in the spring, summer, where we have a help desk or a walk through the neighborhood and deal with the families, both Habitat families and potentially, some of the neighbors who aren't related with Habitat but live in the community, to talk about planting and garden design issues and that kind of thing. One of the things we're thinking about is a container garden demonstration, because there's not a lot of room for gardens in the soil directly in the neighborhood. So I think that the year is shaping up to be pretty interesting. We can go to the next one, Devin. So if we look back over the 3 prior years and kind of assess what's happened, we've landscaped a total of 41 Habitat homes, and families have moved in and are living there. We've provided each family with, if they weren't present at the plantings, they've received our folders on plant identification, planting, and care, as well as we've trained numerous volunteers who assisted us during the planting. So the education, the horticultural education aspect of what we wanted to do, I think, has been pretty successful. We've converted most of what's going into the ground in the Habitat homes to native plants from non-natives, and we've, I think, assisted Habitat in improving the outdoor area of the homes, providing water access and reducing erosion and better water flow outside the homes. That's all been a plus. Next. You want to take this on, Roseanne?
Sure. Well, swinging back to our original strategic goals and looking at how successful we've been in our overall organizational goals, we're very happy that we have been able to improve environmental sustainability and for Habitat, not only for the appearance, but also for all of the benefits of using native plants. And we estimate that we've been able to use approximately 70% native plants. We've expanded our client base. As we've mentioned before, most of the families we've worked with and lately in the Southwood project are Hispanic people and hardworking, lower income people that have now had the opportunity to move into to more decent housing. I also want to say, though, that we're not just counting the current year contacts with this, that we think that this program is going to have a growth impact over time, working not only with the Habitat clients, but also with the market rate clients in the Southwood development. And not only that, the good publicity that we receive expands the awareness of the Piedmont Master Gardeners in the area and some of the possible opportunities that we're offering in other areas for horticultural education. And finally, the cooperation with the local organizations. We're very happy with our relationship with Habitat. We've had the contact with Bama Works Foundation, the Charlottesville Area Tree Stewards, and the other volunteer groups that have been working at Southwood, including the UVA students. And recently, some of the students one student group has contacted us and they're interested in working with us in other projects. So we are very happy with that. And moving on to plans for the future impact. As Ralph mentioned, we want to build relationships with homeowners to educate them more about horticulture over time. And Ralph mentioned some of the things that we have planned for that in the next year. There are some common areas in Southwood, and so far we haven't worked with Habitat or the Homeowners Association with those common areas, but we're hoping to do that where opportunities arise. And finally, one of the things that we're ambitious about is we want to contact the Southwood two companies that are doing market rate housing. And we're hoping to encourage them to increase their landscaping to include more natives and more sustainable plants. So let me turn back to Ralph to finish up.
Thank you, Roseanne. So if you think your organizations are interested in expanding, your participation in community partnerships, and doing the kind of outreach that we've done the last few years, we have some suggestions based on our experience. The right place to start is to, define your organization's goals and mission, and take a look at the resources that you have available to accomplishment to make sure that you don't overstate your capabilities or overcommit your organization to things that you can't follow through on. Take a look in the community and identify the underserved areas that you think are deserving of support. Find the community organizations that address those issues and talk to the leadership of those organizations. We've got everything from the nonprofits that we've talked about to a couple of church groups that we work with to the local schools, and all that's been satisfying and has really achieved the goals of our strategic plans. We're pretty positive about that. The other thing we've learned, I think, is that we're dealing with a different group of folks, both organizations that have their own direction and priorities, as well as different community groups, and there are cultural and language and communication differences, and so you need to be conscious of that and take on the relationships in constructive ways that are supportive. And we want to make sure we come in at looking like a group that wants to be supportive and helpful, not somebody that wants to take charge or be bossy in any way. That's for sure. Go to the next one, Devin. So if you want to build a partnership and establish a project with a community organization, again, the kind of the little bit of repeat here, sorry about that, but what makes sense from our standpoint is to determine where others' needs and your organization's resources and mission align. Put together a fairly detailed project structure that outlines the tasks and responsibilities of each group during the year in question. We're doing it on an annual basis. At least it gets kind of adjusted periodically as we adapt to the changes that we discover along the way. But if everybody's clear going in and you have a positive outlook of things, the setbacks tend to work out. At least they have in our case. We encourage regular communication and request feedback as well as offer it. Again, always in a constructive way. It's important to be flexible and to make adjustments as needed. It never seems to work out quite as you had anticipated at the beginning. On the other hand, these community projects that we've done, and specifically the Habitat project, have been extremely satisfying. Our master gardeners have really enjoyed working both with the families and with the volunteers. Our relationship with the local community, with Habitat specifically, has really grown and been positive. And we've drug a lot of other local organizations in. It's just been a very, very positive, constructive effort on our part, in our view. Next one, Devin. So that's the end of our planned talk. Um, I'd like to just say that this photo is from a drone that one of Habitat's publicity people flew over the triplex that we were working on. We spoke of it a little bit earlier. You can kind of see the 3 plantings that we're doing on that, as well as the community around it. So I think you can see the benefit of making these Habitat homes as appealing as possible and giving them the closest fit to the rest of the community as possible, so that the families that are moving in don't feel like, we want them to feel as positive as they can about being part of an accepted part of the community. And we think we can contribute to that with the work that we're doing with them, both the planning itself and the training that we provide. We're welcome to handle any questions. Are you collecting them, Devin?
Yes, I have a couple questions here. But I wanted to say thanks for this talk. This is just such an amazing project, and I am sure I speak for everyone when I say it's very impressive, and we've all learned a lot from it. First question, somebody asked about green space in Southwood. Can you kind of describe if there is green space in the community and how it's set up? If you know.
Well, it's still pretty young. Maybe Roseanne has something beyond me, but uh, there is a green space. There's like a little soccer field, and um, there's space in the neighborhood that is garden oriented, and they're adding it all the time. And we're hoping to get some input, as we mentioned during the presentation, to get the people who are building it and designing the landscapes to move to the same kind of native sustainable kind of plantings that we've been doing. So I don't know if that answers the question.
The next question is from Vern from Henrico, and he wants to know if it's possible to have a listing of native plants and trees used in the landscapes.
And if the question is whether it's possible to have a listing of the ones specifically that have been used in Southwood, I guess we could do that. I think that, what we did in this case was draw on what the landscape designer wanted and try to supply some substitutes for those things in that case. It's, of course, a much more restricted picture of what's possible in terms of natives as you get from the various publications that are out there about native shrubs and trees, and that are done in the booklets about different regions of the state.
Yeah, we do have a sheet that the Habitat designer put together that we could send you, Devin, and you could distribute to anybody who was interested in it. Would that work?
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. And somebody else did ask if they can contact your group for guidance. Who would they contact if other units are interested in getting some input?
Both
Yeah,
Rob and me, yeah.
we can send you our emails. How about that?
Okay, yeah. That would be great. And I can send it out to everybody who registered for this if you need to reach out to them for guidance. I had a question. What the Habitat community, the new one that they're building, was there like an HOA or any rules about what people are allowed to include in their landscaping?
There is an HOA that handles some of it's kind of split between HOA and independent. The HOA group has its own designer that has a very consistent, they've worked with the HOA and they have a consistent plan of what they're using, but that's the non-native aspect. In our case, nobody's really tried to limit us, so it's been pretty open.
Okay. And that kind of ties into this next question, which is somebody asks about edible landscaping. Do you think what are your thoughts about edible landscaping? And do you think, well, I'm interested if any of the homeowners asked about it.
We haven't had any any questions ourselves about edible landscaping from the homeowners. Uh, Most of the habitat homes, being townhomes, don't really have a great deal of land to work with. Uh, and so far, the landscaping that's been put in doesn't leave much room for edible landscaping. It would be, we would love to see if the development had some places for garden plots too. But given the economics of the situation, when we just don't have any information that there is going to be that at the moment.
And I would add to that and say that most of the families have very little experience gardening at all, and I'm sure that most of them have never heard the term edible landscaping. So it hasn't been a topic, but we are discussing, we're discussing the possibility of help providing them some guidance on how to grow some of their own fruits or vegetables if they wanted to do that. But there's no formality there.
Okay, and the last question, were you restricted to using nursery grown plants, or were you allowed to bring in any like plant sale plants or things that members had grown?
It was open in a combination. Most of what we've gotten the last year in Southwood that's been all purchased from retailers. Prior to that, in the earlier days, we were providing some native plants from our own gardens and from plant sale collection. Small
Okay.
percentage, I would say, wouldn't you, Roseanne? But there was some of it.
Yes, yeah, pretty small. And I think, as we said, at Southwood, there's a concern about having some pretty instant curb appeal. So starter plants in terms of shrubs and trees are really not going to be acceptable at this point.
Okay, that's really interesting. It sounds like there are a couple of other groups who are interested in doing something like this. And so those people might reach out to you, and I'll make sure that everybody gets in touch who needs to get in touch. And this will be posted on the website along with, if you have a plant list or any other resources that you'd like me to post as well, we'll get it up there. Thank you so much, Ralph and Roseanne. This has been super useful and educational, and I think it's going to be a great resource to have on the website as well for people who might approach this moving forward. Just as a reminder, for next month, we're going to have Scott Sloan, who is going to talk about invasive forest pests and diseases. He's part of the Invasive Species Collaborative at Virginia Tech, and that is going to be April 22nd at 1 p.m. And I'm going to post that on the website as well. Thanks again, Diane and Ralph. And thanks everybody for joining us this morning, and we'll see you next week. Or next
Sorry about my technical issues.
Oh, don't worry about it, Ralph. I'm sure everybody here has experienced this exact same thing with Zoom, and this is a supportive and understanding group of people. So you're totally fine.
We appreciate it. Thanks to all of you.